Live. Excellent. Yeah, so welcome everyone again. This is JWC. The show is that's Joe's Writers Club. The show is called JWC Story Autopsy with Ricky and Tom. Special guest star uh, Amber Danson. We're all creative obsessors. I mean, that's my term for it. We have jobs and stuff, but all day long we're thinking of ideas, of things we want to write in that magical writing full time future that we all dream of. So we have lots of projects that we're always thinking about. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to get into that process of thought space when you're a creative obsessor or someone who is constantly doing creative writing projects. There's this nexus in your mind of ideas. It's like a tornado. It's like you're inside a tornado. You see that character over there and that magical kingdom over there, and that story is tumbling beneath you in a howling void. And you're just like, wow, this is great. I wish I could do all this stuff. How do I organize this chaos? If you believe in such a thing as chaos, because you got to put a bridle on a hurricane. That's how it is with deep creators. So what we're going to talk about today specifically is Amber she's been going through her stuff. Isn't that right, Amber? You've been getting your work in progresses, of which you have how many?
I have 15 that are viable ideas and another handful of them that I might do something with later on.
So,
Wow.
so that's fantastic. I have lots and lots. Like it's an obscene list. It goes off into the horizon of viability. And desire, like, do I want to do this? There's projects that zoom right up. That's like, oh, I gotta do that, like within the next year. How about you, Tom? How many ideas do you have in your creative hurricane, your tornado, tornado of inspiration?
Within the central vortex that I'm actively working on, probably six. In the outer rings of things that I could grab at any moment, probably close to 60 to 70. I mean,
Yeah, I know. And that's the thing. I have 30, 40 that are sitting around, and like 20 of those are like, I really got to do them. And I think given the amount of time, the proper amount of time, I could. And it doesn't surprise me that you have almost 100 because you've been at it. You're bound to have too many irons in the fire, as they say.
well,
Uh,
I
you
have
know,
four. I have two double filing cabinets, uh, with with
yeah.
hanging folders in them, and they're full. I have 3 dozen John Pencrom stories.
Yeah,
I have about 4 dozen screenplay ideas that I'm going to turn into novels or short stories. Um, I have a variety of other stories. My thief in the year 2228. I've got some stories of him, and then a file that just said stuff. Yeah, stuff for the future. So yeah, it's got to be over 100. Um,
Well, I believe it. There when you said when I asked you to populate your creative tornado or whatever, you talked about the nexus point versus the outer spin. So it's like projects that are like I would love to do them, but the stuff that's at the nexus, that's the most important. That's the stuff that you can't get out of your mind. You're always
hmm.
thinking about. So let's start with that, Amber. We can break into the whole concept of. I mean, you could list them in the order that you have them to make it easy. But then I'd like to hear like which are your favorites, like the nexus point, the ones that are in the nexus point of creativity.
Well, that's the problem. These 15 are kind of the favorites.
Oh, so and that's a wonderful problem to have when you have so much inspiration that you have 15 that are in the Royal Rumble vying for victory to get written, you know?
Yeah, I narrowed down my list of projects I could work on to the ones I was most interested in and came up with 15.
It's a beautiful thing. See, I have 4 right now in my creative storm that are battling, and I'm outlining like all of them, and they're all great projects. So it's a question of which one is the unconsciousness, the muse, which one is she gonna target?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the key. We got to get you down to 5. Okay, you have 15 which are like, oh man, all these are great. But we got to get you to 5 where you're like, out of the 15, those are the ones I got to do. Because then at least it's like, it's not 15. 15's too much to choose from.
Yeah.
5 to 3 is like your muse can be, because then you could put the other ones where they need to be on the back burner or back in the pantry, and wait for a minute. And then your muse will focus on these 3 or 5. So, Tom, I think we got to help Amber a little bit.
Yep, I was just looking at my top 5 or 6 stories. I one last one, and I'll be ready with my list.
Okay, so we'll have some fun.
All right, I'm done.
What we'll do is we're gonna have that's great. We're gonna have Amber read her list, okay, and then you're gonna read yours, Tom, and then you're gonna tell us why those are your top 5 out of 80 or whatever. And the reasons that those are your top 5 may help to translate onto Amber and why her top 5 would be hers. Like, it'll help her differentiate maybe, if that's possible. It's a great goal. It's a great goal to have if we could figure that out today. But we may not. We may just kind of like go in a direction. Ultimately, it's going to be between you and your muse, Amber. So go ahead. Let's start with your list. Read your works in progress. The top 15.
The top 15. Not all of them have titles yet, but most of them do.
Yeah. Okay.
Queen of Storms was actually inspired partially by watching Frozen.
Okay.
And instead of dealing with a queen who's got magic and is trying to hide it, we've got a queen who is in a long line of sorceress rulers who she thinks she has no magic.
No.
And is panicking about how is she going to have the faith of the people when she can't protect them with magic.
I see. So we'd say what genre is that? That's like,
this is fantasy.
So yeah, it makes sense that it's fantasy. Okay, so that's the first one, and that sounds cool. Go ahead, keep going. This is awesome.
The Mad Sorceress is the sequel to my epic fantasy, The Black Warlock. The Black Warlock has been mostly edited, is almost ready to go, and I've got about 4 chapters of the sequel, and I could write the whole thing pretty easy.
Okay, that's another fantasy, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Next, let's hear the other.
There's a story I've got. It's probably going to be a novella. It's kind of like The Lion King, only more realistic. When the male lion comes over and takes over the pride, he tries to kill all the cubs, but the cubs all flee. And they have to, and it's about their adventures surviving as a tiny pride of tiny cubs.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like a Lord of the Flies, but with lions type of situation. Because
Lord of the Flies meets Lion King.
Yeah, I dig that right away because there's And there's something to that, especially with the way you deal with non-human characters, non-human intellects. You're going to be able to really do something with that. All right, this is great. Keep it up. Let's see if we can get to 10 at least.
Yeah. The next one is my own take on superheroes. It's post-apocalyptic, where there's a new species of human called Homo supremacists.
Yeah.
And they all have some sort of ability. And this one actually has Magneto's greatest fear in it. It's got the Department of Superpowers. And if you're registered and you lose control of your powers, you get a slap on the wrist. If you're not registered and you lose control of your powers, you're in deep doo-doo.
Yeah,
and most of the mutants work for the Department of Superpowers.
Dig it. I mean, obviously, superheroes and stuff.
It's kind of been overdone lately, but that's one of my ideas that I like.
Well, I mean, I read old school X-Men from the 70s and 80s and whatever, and back in the day, I watched some of that show Heroes, and that stuff. You could do a lot with that genre. I mean, it's definitely been almost chopped in half as far as how it's been done. To say
in mine, this is after World War III, where the world is recovering from a nuclear apocalypse. So there's an actual reason for the mutation.
Yeah, so I mean, if you said it in a dystopian, then that's more like Age of Apocalypse, which was the short-run X-Men comic. I think it was in the middle '90s. That was pretty cool. But, and I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm just saying. I don't know if you've read all of those, but that would be a good place to start as far as the need to break new ground, Like I wrote a cyberpunk novella, and I made sure that I read some kind of cross-section of cyberpunk. I mean, besides playing those tabletop games and whatever. So it's just food for thought. Okay, another one, please. This is great.
Wolvenwood, which is the magical forest where these sentient wolves live. They have a partnership with wild elves, and the sentient wolves end up taking care of two half-breed children when the wild elf and his human lover are killed by bigots.
Romulus and Remus. And it sounds like a nice fantasy you're weaving there. And again, like the Lord of the Flies meets Lion King story, your non-human intellects are always great. Let's have another one. Let's see, and then maybe we'll head. I mean, this is incredible. All that stuff sounds great. Yeah. I can see why you have a little bit of a problem there.
Yeah, I've got. Suffer a Witch to Live, which is my demon hunting priest who teams up with a coven of vampire witches to take down a sadistic vampire lord.
You hear that, Tom?
That's got promise.
Yes, I know where Tom's vote's going right away. That's like a given.
I've got only a chapter of that, but it's pretty solid.
Yeah, well, that's another thing about Gothic stuff and vampire stuff. That's another thing that's been super done, but I'm still interested in your take on it and where you would go with it. So how many is that now? 7 or 8?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, let's have four more, and we'll stop at 10. And then Tom's gonna read his, and we'll hear why he's why he chose those. Out of 80, he chose 5. So out of 10, we got to be able to reduce it at least. So read the others. Let's get to those.
Well, there's Dance of Death, which is book number 4 in my Death's Nightmare series. That's going to be that's a dark thriller with a really messed up serial killer and a serial killer turned cop who's hunting for him.
Yeah, and I know that's a favorite of yours. And furthermore, the stuff I read a few chapters of one of those, and you do thrillers fantastic, so I could see why that's like you have a real voice for that. That character was great too. The tension that you got in there is marvelous. Okay, let's get the rest of these.
Um, there's also the one I mentioned before, Thicker Than Blood, where it's a fantasy with the street tough who grows up with his best friend. They have a falling out over a woman, and then he meets up with his best friend later and finds out that his best friend's a woman in disguise.
Cool.
She's been hiding from her father her whole life because he's trying to use her in a political scheme to control his clan. He needs a female heir for that. And when he got one, the mother fled with her.
Yeah, I mean, when you told me about that one, I think it was last Tuesday or whatever, I thought it was great. And there's a trend with you in fantasy. You got a lot of fantasy. So that's going to make things, that should make things easy. All right, one more, and then we'll go to Tom's list, you know?
This is actually, this one's more of a contemporary because it's a take on Cinderella, but it's set in the modern world, and it's told from the perspective of one of the ugly stepsisters. And she's not exactly ugly, but she's a little on the dumpy side. She's a little plain, and she's not Barbie doll gorgeous like Cinderella. And Cinderella, who was her daddy's spoiled princess, never really had to do anything growing up. So now that stepmother's in charge, stepmother's trying to straighten her out, which is why she's doing all these chores, because she keeps being rebellious. She keeps mouthing off. She keeps sneaking out. She keeps, disobeying and getting punished.
Interesting.
And in this one, Cinderella does get the prince and finds out she didn't really want him.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes it easy. So yeah, now is that going to be some kind of like teen thing? Like what are you going to do?
It's going to be a young adult.
Yeah. I had a feeling because I don't know how else you'd approach it righteously the way things are. Like as far as like how I think what they would be looking for, because it's got royalty and it's got servitude, but it's got this family crisis, and it's like there's too much goodness for angst and tension in there to not have it be.
But I mean, instead of the prince, they're all after the hot, popular, rich guy in the school.
Yeah,
the school prince,
of course.
Always the homecoming king, and the whole big thing is, he just broke up with his girlfriend. Who's he going to invite to prom?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, all of those sound really good, and we're gonna hear a Tom's list of 5 out of 80. Ooh. And then if there's time, I may ask you to give me the other 5, Amber. But Tom, you take a turn now. Reason being is if we go from 2 different creatives, and both of you are fairly powerful in that degree, you got lots of ideas. If we go between the 2 of you, you could probably have a little bit of a networking of minds and a dialogue, and maybe share a process of like how you would pick. Because I have some ideas already of what I would do, but I'm not that kind of goose. I'm not going to get into it right away. I'm going to let Tom go. Go ahead, Tom. Read your list, please.
All right.
Out of 80.
Right. In no particular order. All right. First one is Night of Fate, which was my very first John Pencrim story. The one where he investigates a werewolf sighting and gets bitten.
Oh,
and from that on, the rest of the story is concerned what it's like to be a werewolf trying to do a paranormal. He's an anomalist, not a paranormal detective, trying to be an anomalist who periodically turns into a werewolf. And he finds out he can control his urges, so he doesn't become this wild wolf man thing. He just, So I'm rewriting that whole thing. Oh, go ahead.
right away, I'm psyched. Anything with lycanthropy, I'm like, my vote's already probably there.
Yep.
So go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't. I
So
just
originally he was. I had all these stories set in Scotland, but I said,
Mhm.
I've never been to Scotland. When am I going to get to Scotland? So I said, I'm gonna make it easier for me to write. So I transplanted everything, house and etc. stories to just north, the northern edge of the Pine Barrens in New Jersey.
Ah,
So
yes. Yep, and we all
that
know
was
who lives. We all know who lives there.
right, and they do tangle here and there
Yeah,
occasionally.
yeah, of course, man.
All right, the second one, of course, is The Bride and Her Mate,
Oh
the
yeah.
Bride of Frankenstein, and the monster story that is going great guns. That's a lot of fun so far. Then Blood on the Sand, my Florida novel. Um, Something comes out of the water when there's a new moon and there's a thunderstorm and snatches people off the beach, and
And folks, if you want to hear about Tom's Bride project, go back a couple live streams. Check us out on Facebook or on YouTube. Uh, we touched on the Bride story for a while. Like we got a nice. He read some of it. He talked about the project, and also the vacation novel, the Florida novel with the Luska. That might have been last week's live stream. Go back and check that out. Give us a few views because it was a real great program. I listened to it. It sounded great. So go ahead, Tom. I'm sorry, man. Just
all
want
right.
to plug that up.
The next one is Spectre over Avondale, which is Avondale, New Jersey. It's another Pencrim story.
Nice.
I'll keep that. No spoilers on that one. That one's really interesting. Um,
Heaven
let's
forbid.
see. Yeah. The next one is The Earth is Hungry. A piece of the Mother Earth creature that dwells underneath the earth breaks off and gets spit out of a well. And it's very hungry and eats anything organic that it encounters. And basically, it's hungry and it's eating and it just wants to go home. So it's searching for a way back. It doesn't realize that it just has to go back down the well.
It
And
sounds like it sounds like me and how I feel inside. Very good, very good.
so that
So go
one,
ahead.
that's pretty wild. Then there's my new project, which only popped into my head Monday morning about 6:30 in the morning. Dante's Tower, which we could cover
Yeah,
later.
yeah. I was about to say I want to zoom in on that one because when you read it, when you were going over it, I thought it was such a fantastic idea. So and here's the thing. So out of all of this, let's see what we got some time. Amber, I think I'm going to have you read those other five, and then we're all going to talk about it and decide. And it's like I have some ideas of how to reduce this, even though they're all such great ideas. So go ahead, read your five more.
Okay, there's the one fantasy where the woman wakes up in the desert with absolutely no memory. She's been battered and beaten and is surrounded by dead bodies, so obviously something bad happened and has obviously been left for dead and has to figure out who she is and what happened.
Mysterious. And a lot of potential in there. Missing 411 always is. And that's what that counts for. She amnesiac, and there's dead bodies all over the place. I mean, clearly something went wrong. So
yeah, something went wrong.
Yeah, so any empathic
reader identify the dead. She doesn't know if she knows the dead body or not. She doesn't know anything.
That's a fantastic place for the reader to pick up on that. Go ahead, let's hear another.
I have my own take on Rapunzel, where the witch is actually given custody of Rapunzel in order to protect her. Again, it's the whole royalty having to flee because of a plot against them type thing. But the witch is protecting Rapunzel, and she was cursed at her birth with hair that won't stop growing. So it grows something like a foot a day. And they just braid it into rope and sell the rope. And And
it's a moneymaker, I'm sure. But
yeah.
All right,
That's
let's hear.
incredible.
Let's hear another, please.
Then there's Aftermath. That's the apocalyptic story I had for that's told from Little Girl's Diary.
Yeah. Let me
that
tell.
one.
I loved when you were reading that on Tuesday. I don't mean to cut you off, but that was fantastic. I mean, riveting, spellbinding, like stuff like that. Even, I mean, you know, TC was taken with it. I certainly was. I could have went on and on and on. Go ahead, keep going. Sorry, unpack that a little more.
Then there's Unicorn Morph. It's a sort of urban fantasy with the modern world where animals, some of them develop the ability to polymorph into humans. And they have to find a unicorn morph in order to defeat some sort of evil. I forget. I haven't looked at the story in a while.
Well, it sounds cool to me. Urban fantasy, any kind of fantasy. And I must say that's the majority of your material that you presented here out of this 15, out of your master body of all the inspiration. I know you have notebooks full of stuff. Mm-hmm. Tom,
you want a few more?
Well, no. What I want to ask you is why are those your top 5? Because our goal is to help. Our goal is to help Amber here resolve her crisis. So the best way to do that is to find out how you got to the bottom of yours, how you were able to reduce 80 to 5. You know what I mean?
Those 5 or 6 are works actually in progress. They have a lot of work done on them. Some of them have been written. They just need to be a second or third draft. These are the ones that have the most promise for me at the moment of becoming completely done, finished, except for Dante's Tower, which is a new obsession. I'm going to see what happens with that.
So your priority in this instance, these are more like works in progress that are almost finished. Except of course for the one you just mentioned. Right. So that's really a thing is, okay, that's a good first question. Amber, out of those projects that you mentioned, which ones are furthest along?
The ones that are furthest along are Thicker Than Blood and Wovenwood.
Yeah. So that's one criteria to expedite them to the top of the list. The other thing would be genre and subgenre. Mm-hmm. Like that's what I would impose. I would say, well, if I'm because I know you're going to do a weekly. You're doing a creative. Creative schedule, like a creative planner, as we call it. So one day you'd want to work, this is just hypothetically, but one day you'd want to work on fantasy. Maybe another day you'd want to work on another genre. And if it's fantasy, then it's like, this is political. This is really high magic, like high fantasy. This is sword and sorcery, or like more like classic fantasy, or however you want to call it. So that would be a way to break it down, right?
Yeah. There are 2 more on the list.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. I'm excited. Go ahead. Read those other 2. Apologies.
I have my genre blending one, and Then There Was Her. It's a dark crime thriller, or dark romantic crime thriller. Where I use the boyfriend for hire trope, and he falls for one of his clients only to find out she's a serial killer.
Ouch. That's an oopsie daisy on his part. That sounds great though, especially from your ability to write thriller and horror, how you wield tension. Okay, let's hear the last one.
The last one would be the sequel to The Shattered Sky, The Broken World. Which it's probably going. It's. I've only got like a chapter, but The Shattered Sky itself, I wrote that in 6 weeks. So I could probably burp out the Broken World pretty fast.
Yeah, and that would be another angle is these projects, how long are they? Are they all like novels or are some of them short stories?
Well, given how long both Thicker Than Blood and Woven already are, they're going to be novels. And Dance of Death is going to be a novel. Not sure how long The Ugly Stepsister is going to end up being, or Rapunzel. But the Mad Sorceress and Queen of Storms are both novel length. Aftermath has the potential to be kind of long. And then there was Her is going to be about 80,000 words. Broken World's probably close to 80,000 words. I mean, the Lion one, I don't know. The Lion one might end up a novella. So that one might go towards the top of the list because it'd be shorter.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, there's lots of ways to do this, to break it down. But I mean, first comes first is whichever one you can't stop thinking about. Then it breaks down into genre where it's like, I'm not going to be writing fantasy all week. Maybe I want to break it up. And then it's subgenre. And then like the overall length of the project, like you're saying, like maybe Monday is novel day. And then like Tuesday is novella day. And Wednesday is short story day. Or you know what I mean? Thursday is blog day, where there's different lengths, like you're writing at different lengths so you could get stuff done. I don't know. What do you think, Tom? I mean, if you had to pick out of those projects, which one grabbed your fancy if they were yours? You know, what would you do first?
Oh, I know what I would do. I would do the what do you call it? The group of the vampires hunting down the mad vampire.
The demon hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I need for that one is a couple of biblical quotes.
Well, it's a start.
The whole Bible, so I know what a priest would shout at an enemy in order to try to.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. I mean, I have some thoughts about words that seem to drive away demons. I think it's very possible it's not so much what the words are; it's the actual words, the sonic combination of the sounds that you know that actually are the poison to the whatever, you know. Something I've been toying with.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good point. Hitting it from a different angle. I mean, probably watch some Exorcist movies if you can stomach that stuff. Certainly some horror movies. My favorite hunter of all time was always Vampire Hunter D. Any of that stuff, though. I mean, I would imagine. I'm going back to the classics, like what do you call it? Fright Night. You know.
Yes.
Fright Night was a great movie for like, I mean, it's a vampire hunter flick, but it's just the concepts that were there and the execution with the '80s style of it. Yeah, you know,
one of the great vampires. Yeah, I thought.
Yeah, he was great. Yeah, you have to have faith for that to work on me.
Yeah,
yeah, that was so good, man.
And the sequel was just so crap.
I never saw it. La 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 la. I don't even want to see it.
That's all we're saying.
Yeah, no, thank you for the warning. Take that as a warning, folks. So anyway, that would be your choice, and that I might have known that would be your choice. And out of all the fantasy stories she mentioned, which one would you pick? Because the more political one, where it's a woman pretending to be a man in order to get away with some stuff and self-preserve. I mean, that's the one that sounds groovy to me. But there were a few that I liked. What did you think?
I like the woman waking up in the desert surrounded by the dead bodies. I mean, you could go anywhere with that.
Yeah, agreed. Go ahead, Tom. I want to hear it.
Yeah, it's my wheels are already turning on what I would possibly do, and it's okay. It's good for me to do that, even if I never touch that story. It's good to for the it's a good mind exercise. That what I want to do with that woman,
Absolutely.
etc.
I couldn't
So,
agree more. I couldn't agree more. Always let your creativity wander, and especially inspiration is the highest coin in the realm. If you're feeling inspired, just roll with it.
hmm,
So, Amber, I hope that's helped you in some way after that little networking, that little workshop for your
Yeah,
creative
I've picked my
planner.
7.
Oh, cool. So we've reduced it to 7 from 15. So if you impose further,
Yeah,
go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say I'll just pick which one. I've got I think I've got 3 fantasies of different persuasions and a couple other things.
hmm,
It's just I did so much of my life writing fantasies, and I found out I'm better at thrillers, but I still want to finish the fantasies.
right,
And
You're you're you're
Wovenwood
you're pretty
and Thicker Than Blood are both almost half written.
you're pretty good with fantasy too. Let's not shortchange that. You probably have more fun writing thrillers, and I think your thrillers are very good. But I
hmm,
mean, you're good at both, so it's just a question of balancing it out. Like
Yeah,
it's fantasy Monday, it's thriller Wednesday, whatever.
yeah.
right.
And I'm gonna go ahead and stick with the. I'm gonna put the Demon Hunting Priest on one of the days. I don't know which day yet.
Hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah, folks. So you see how it is. You get your works in progress because people always all over the place on boards. People are like on social media. They talk about how, oh, I have all these ideas and I can never bring them together. I can never commit to a project. Well, there it is. We have Amber here who brought 15 out of her copious. I saw her stack of notebooks. It's like
Hmm,
this. It's like pancakes, right?
Yep.
Uh, yeah, so she got lots of ideas, and now out of those, she boiled it to 15, which are like the best, the favoritist, the ones she's excited about. And now we just imposed a few criteria on top of it. Now she's got it down to 7. And I know with further obsession to that end, she'll get it down to 5 or 3. And then that'll
Mhm.
be, I mean, 7 is great because that's 7 days of the week, which goes with your whole creative planner, the thing you were setting up,
Well,
right?
the thing is just I have to go flexible with what my brain will do. And
Well,
right now my brain just doesn't want to stick to one project.
mm-hmm.
It hasn't wanted to stick to just one project since COVID hit.
Mm.
hmm.
Yeah,
So
I
with the
see.
world acting weird, my brain wants to jump around. So I'll jump
Hmm.
around. I'll just do one book every different day until I finish 7 books in about probably will take me about 8 months.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see that. It seems realistic. That's another thing. All these reductions, as far as which one to do and goals to establish goals, those goals have to be realistic. It's good to push, though. It's good to reach for your dreams and say, I want to get a bunch done. Like I said, I'm outlining 4 right now. I'm trying to have fun with it. That's the last lesson, folks. Is make sure you're having fun with your creative writing,
Mhm.
because episodic satisfaction helps to reinforce goals. Between that and dreams, it helps you set your sight on the horizon instead of getting bogged down with the nuts and bolts realities of little things that are distractions. Creativity is supposed to be fun. That's why you're doing it. It's a huge reason to do it. Self-expression, therapy, all kinds of stuff. You hear it all out of the journals of the great ones. So that was fun. At least I thought so, and we learned a few things.
Right.
So Tom, um, I think we were going to go over this new project of yours, right?
Why not?
Which is, yeah, that's the last one you mentioned on your list of 5, and it pertains to that whole subterranean map. We're not going to touch on the map, but why don't you unpack that muse for us really quick?
All right. About 15 minutes before I woke up on Monday morning, I had this dream about a driving up to this dome. It's about four stories tall, glass and beautiful, and it's an office building. And I walk into the lobby, and I said I'm here to fix the speakers in Cinema 4, which is a Regal Cinema. They said, sure, no problem, no elevators over there. I show my pass, and I push the button, and the elevator goes down, 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 down. And I took a broader, my view went all the way out, and basically I had this idea. It was a 127 floor building, high building, but set deep into the ground. And I said, what could be down here? I said the top 25 floors would be a hotel, and then there's the business district, and then underneath there would be apartments for the employees and etc. And at the very bottom would be these luxury suites. I said, very, very interesting, And then I pictured there's a service corridor running around every floor with an incline, so they could just drive down to every floor. And there's service elevators, and there's stairs, and I said, I got up. I just thought of an idea. I said, I just wrote down, set up, and I wrote Dante's Tower, which is Dante being going down to hell. I said, that would be really cool.
Yeah, Allegory.
And so I just started kicking ideas around. I drew the map first, and I said, what if at near the very bottom, the last 25 or so floors, one side faces this cavern, vast cavern that's dark, and there's 100 new species living in there. They're completely blind, but they glow in the dark. And that when they built the tower, they put up this glass wall so that the people going down there could observe the life forms down there. And but it was special glass that always stayed dark. Light never penetrated into the cavern, so that would not disturb the life forms. I said, "Oh, that's very, very cool," and it just started growing, from there. And
yeah, it sounds great.
And then my typical brain, I said, "This perfect utopia, this beautiful building, da da da." I said, and then somebody disappears. I said, here we go.
Yeah, that is what I would take out of the book of Tom Tiernan right there.
So I wrote
have to be it like that, a disappearance.
So I just sat down. I did the complete opposite of what you're supposed to do. Is that I wrote the query letter first, and then I said, if I send this query letter out and somebody says, "Oh, I want to read the book," I'll just say, "Give me a couple months." So,
well, yeah, that would psych you up to write it. Do you have that query letter at hand that you can
I do.
Whoa, I think we got to hear that. That'll cover our bookcraft angle. So go ahead, Tom. Lay it on us.
I decided to write it up as sort of a brochure to sell an apartment or sell the building as the query letter. You want me to share it or just read it?
You could read it, right?
All right, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. This might still be a little rough, but hey, it says, "Welcome to Earth Tower 1, the most unique building on Earth. Using futuristic materials, all 127 stories of Earth Tower 1 are situated inside of the Earth. Yes, we have crafted a skyscraper that plunges 1,266 feet straight into the solid bedrock, 14 miles east of St. Louis, Missouri. This stable area is hundreds of miles from any fault line and miles from the nearest large water source. In this magnificent structure, you'll find the Tempest Hotel, 45 floors of exclusive, unique rooms with the feel of Victorian England. The Harry S. Truman Office Complex, 46 floors of the most innovative places of business to be found anywhere. The Jules Verne Apartments, 25 floors of apartments, each with a minimum of 750 square feet of living area. the Lewis and Clark Casino, a world-class casino with the latest games and live entertainment. It also sports the longest bar in the world. Regal Cinema's Underground 6, six of the latest state-of-the-art theaters with full 3D and IMAX applications. 4 luxury suites. All of these are found at the 4 lowest levels of the tower. Designed by Lee Stover III, the world's foremost architect. Each has an exclusive view of the Fendelman Cavern. And last but not least, the Fendelman Observatory, found immediately above the Lee Stover Suites. This 4-story observatory gives a 5-star view of the Fendelman Cavern. The Fendelman Cavern is a spacious cavern system with over 100 newly discovered species. All of these creatures have spent many generations in complete darkness. Now, with a generous donation from the Reynolds Scientific Group, this cavern can now be viewed without exposing the inhabitants to any light that would destroy their ecosystem. A small lab of scientists is cataloging various species for the benefit of all. The tower complex and the business district on the surface is powered by 3 Hudson Cavendish thermal electric generators. A service corridor runs around every floor, giving our people the ability to deliver food and supplies to the entire building. Come join us for the opening weekend of this magnificent building. Tours and prizes will be given away. All hotel suites are booked through the next 10 years. Office space is still available. Apartments are available on a monthly basis. Thank you, Arthur J. Shepard, CEO and President of the McDaniel Trust and Bank. Of course, something goes wrong. It starts with several tenants disappearing without a trace. Then food goes missing for an entire floor. When a human skeleton is spotted in the Fendelman Cavern, Security Chief Dan Hepburn begins an investigation. He is joined by Shelley Brinkman, manager of the Jules Verne Apartments, and by Lee Stover III. Together they find the horrible danger behind the tower's construction and how that danger is still angry and hungry. I am looking for representation for my novel, Dante's Tower. The novel runs XX thousand words. It is a horror murder mystery set in a unique location. The novel is complete and ready for your view. I appreciate your time and hope you find Dante's Tower to your liking. So there we go.
Cool. Very, very cool. Nice showcase. A bit unorthodox, but I like it. I mean, it drew me in. I think that's the point. And just that concept of they built this huge, I mean, it's like a subterranean condo complex with several corporate centers. Like I saw your map, and it goes underground, and it's got it like one of the walls abuts to the cavern, and they have it sealed with some kind of, what is it, plexiglass or something?
Quote unquote unbreakable plexiglass.
Yeah, well, that's assuming there's nothing Lovecraftian down there with enough positive force to punch through it. And that's the things. People go missing. Who knows if it's human foul play or if something got in from the caverns.
Sure.
And that's such a great place for your voice to wander in. As soon as I heard it. What did you think of that, Amber? The query letter and the whole concept.
Oh, it sounded really interesting, and since it's unique in its presentation, you stand a pretty good chance of capturing someone's attention.
I thought the travel brochure would be interesting, right? What's that?
Yeah, I think it was Clive Cussler who I read about in a query letter book.
Right.
Who managed to bluff his way into getting a successful query by telling an agent he had never met that he had met them at a conference, and they had asked for his manuscript.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That won't work. I don't think that'll work ever again. Yes.
Yeah. I think it's I think it's pretty dicey, but I'm glad it worked out for them, right?
Well, yeah, and we're all blessed to have all those Clive Cussler novels on, because of that risk that he took a risk and just they didn't call his bluff. right?
No harm done. He was just more driven, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think this has been a great episode. We learned a lot about organizing works in progress and creative planners, how to use different criteria like genre and word budget length and fun factor, all kinds of stuff to help narrow down the creative storm, the whirlwind of, oh, I want to work on this, I want to work on this. Now you use those things and you break it down. And if you have a creative planner where you have each day, I'm going to work on this project, and just assign them to days, you can help streamline your efforts and refine your process so that you can write
Sure.
more. And
So,
that's what we want. Go ahead, Tom.
right. The key is like Amber could probably say is to never having writer's block is to always have something to write. That's why I do. I always have
Hmm.
8, 10, 12 things swirling around inside my head that if I get tired of the
Mhm.
bride, I'll put the bride aside for a week and write do something else. And Florida's a perfect example. As I put everything else aside as soon as I get to Florida. My feet hit the floor in Fort Lauderdale Airport. I'm already thinking of a new chapter for my Florida novel, and so
Yeah, that's another thing is just have a priority, a list of priorities, even if it's not you're not doing it as a creative planner every day. Just have stuff you can juggle and see what you feel like when you have your tea, or you isolate to be creative, you withdraw, you do a little solitude, a voluntary solitude. It's a meditation space, like Jung called it. It helps you access your unconsciousness.
hmm,
So you just have something set up, keep them all organized, keep them set up. So between a planner like we did today and organizing them, and for like prioritizing, it makes it easy. So anyway, Amber, why don't you go first? Let's do plugs. What are you going to plug today?
Well, I still really only have one thing out. That's Death's Nightmare, available on Amazon Kindle and Draft to Digital.
ah,
Yeah,
That's my masterwork thriller with a vigilante serial killer forming an unorthodox friendship with a cop.
interesting.
I think I read a few chapters of that. I definitely bought a copy. You should check that out. And your name, say your name again.
Amber Danson.
And that's Nightmare on Amazon. .com. That's great. Check it out, everyone. Tom, go ahead. What are you plugging?
I am plugging Dwellers in the Shadows, a short story collection now on Kindle, available hardcover and in paperback. Um, let's see. Do not be confused by Dweller in the Shadows, The Life of Ivor Gurney. You want Dwellers in the Shadows, but with a spider on the cover. And
Yep.
available in other places. Oh boy. Smashwords, etc., etc. You know.
Mm,
But the Kindle's a place you would want. Ooh, holy mackerel! Oh, if you have Kindle Unlimited, you could get it for free. I just spotted it on my on my when I went to look. So hey,
marvelous, marvelous. Check that out. Tom's got a real handle on shorts, especially horror genre stuff. And he's got it on Kindle. You can look at it right now. Go to it. And I am selling everybody calls me Ricky around here. My author name is Richard Andrew Olkus. It's on Amazon Kindle. I'm selling a dystopian cyberpunk book called Babbletron: After the Fire.
hmm,
It's a novella, action packed. People have been reading it, say it's a fun read. That's a subjective thing, but I was heartened by it. It's on Amazon.com. It's for KDP and Kindle, and I think it's also free with that subscription or whatever. Yeah, so check it out. And this was a fun show. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to try to keep doing this weekly. and just bringing this, bringing the whole concept of creativity under control for you. And we're going to do reads. We're going to have lots of fun. So thanks a lot. Thank you guys for doing, Tom, both you and Amber. Thanks for doing the show. And we'll see you next time, everyone. Take care.
Take care.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, folks.